All right, let's do this. I'm actually kind of nervous, which is weird. Like my heart rate's up. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about my custom Castle Nathria mini set, which I worked on this past week and had a ton of fun making. Before I talk about the individual cards, I kind of just wanted to go over my motivations for doing this in the first place. And there's really two reasons. The first is that card design, I think, is a skill, and just like any other skill, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. So this was practice, and that practice is beneficial to me, not just in just like this hobby of making custom Hearthstone cards, but also I design my own games. I have paper prototypes that I've been working on for years, and there's enough overlap that when I practice making Hearthstone cards, I feel like I'm improving at making cards for my own game as well. So that's really beneficial to me. And the second reason is maybe like a pipe dream, but I'm trying to build like a portfolio to just show off that I feel like I'm pretty good at this. And I would feel confident like sending this to a Blizzard dev as part of a interview or something to demonstrate that, I don't know, I feel like I'm pretty competent at this. So yeah, those are the main two reasons. It was definitely not a solo act. That's why I have this notepad up here. I tried to scroll through and find everyone that like provided feedback along the way. Thank you to everyone on this list I really appreciate that you were willing to lend me both your time and your mental energy to helping me make this project awesome. So I'm just going to leave that up the whole time. All right, so let's just jump in then. So I approached this from the perspective of I am a Blizzard dev, and I'm making a mini set for Castle Nathria, and I'm trying to make it as realistic as possible, and like not inject too much of what I personally want out of Hearthstone into things. Like, for instance, like I want Fel Warlock to be good, but I can't print Fel cards because there's no Fel cards in the set for Warlock. So I just had to kind of follow what seems plausible for Blizzard to actually do. I have spent so much time staring at this page this past week to come up with my designs. So anyway, we're just going to go alphabetical. I'm pretty sure that's how I had these arranged, yeah. And we'll start with Demon Hunter, which is my favorite class in the game, at least in the past year. And my frustrations with the class have been made public. And I'm pretty happy with the three cards that I came up with here. This first card, Fel Singularity, actually huge props to Makadog in particular for getting me to this final version of it. I really wanted to create some sort of payoff for emptying your hand, which I just don't feel like there currently is enough outside of just Magnifying Glaive. So I wanted a payoff that actually impacts the board in some way. So my original design for Fel Singularity was a single 1/1 with Rush that got +2/+2 for each time you've emptied your hand this game. And I thought that was pretty okay. And realistically, like maybe at some point later on in the game, you're getting a 1-mana 5/5 Rush or something. And that feels pretty strong. But I think this design makes more sense for this set because it works with Infuse. There's not a whole lot of Infuse going on in Demon Hunter. I mean, just Zymox. But I don't know. I think there's like a token thing that could be pushed for this class better than they're currently doing. And this feels like an interesting way of doing it. The fact that it's Fel also means that you have a cool Jace thing going on. You could like turn Jace into a Scale of Onyxia kind of play almost. And that's just the kind of like board swing that Demon Hunter is lacking right now. So this is a really cool card that I would really enjoy playing around with, and it's the kind of payoff that we're just kind of lacking right now. I don't think Magnifying Glaive is enough for this like empty your hand Demon Hunter deck. This next card, Relic Seeker, is very straightforward, but I think sometimes straightforward is what a class needs. There's only one other instance, I think, in my mini set where I reference a location specifically. But in the case of Demon Hunter, it feels so essential to the function of the archetype they're trying to push with relics that I think it just makes sense to do something like this. And you have to work for the location tutor, which is relevant. And I also I made it draw a spell rather than just like draw a relic or something, which would be even more egregiously pushing this particular archetype. I think this is interesting because you're not going to build your deck with only the 3 relics as your only spells. So it's not like you're guaranteed drawing your Relic of Dimensions and your Relic Vault, usually. I don't know. Maybe that would be something people would do, but this is just the kind of card that the class really needs if it's going to do anything. And you can print more locations later on and make it so that this is not just a Relic Vault button. So I think this would be great. And I'm pretty happy with it. And then Shriekwing is actually, I think, the first card for this mini set that I made. And boy, was it different when I started. But this is obviously just another like empty hand payoff. Just a really powerful face damage, finisher kind of thing. You're getting like a 4-mana Leroy that with no other downside if your hand is empty. And even if you have a card or 2 in hand, it's still a pretty reasonable play, I think. It would just slot into the deck, obviously. There's not a whole lot to talk about with that, but I'm really happy with the design. It's just a good charge minion that makes sense within the parameters of what Demon Hunter's trying to do right now. So, pretty straightforward cards here. I definitely got more complex later on, I would say. But I think Demon Hunter needs straightforward, just good stuff. So that's kind of what I went for here. I don't even necessarily know if these like save the class, but Relic Seeker in particular I think would be absolutely enormous. So yeah, let's move on. Druid was my first design was this location, and it was pretty easy, but then after that it was very hard to finish this class off. I'm very happy with the location. It's extremely good, obviously, but I think it's just kind of cool gameplay and aesthetically pleasing, and it all fits in. I decided to print some more locations because I think that the design space that's left to explore with those is pretty huge. I don't necessarily know if Blizzard's going to make more locations in the mini set for classes, and I kind of did it for just a few classes, Mage, Rogue. Yeah, so I only printed 3 more. But I just think that this is really cool, so I went with it. Pretty straightforward. You'd probably play it on turn 1 for the Treant and then get a spell later, but maybe you're still getting 2 spells, and maybe you're like holding on to it and like a aggro Druid to plop a Treant before you play your Herald of Nature or Pride's Fury or something. I don't know. It's just obviously good. So Ironbark Basher, I really felt compelled to make some sort of hedge maze synergy, and I tinkered with like a 4-drop so you could do the curve, but then I remembered, Hat has pointed out on podcasts, for example, that the decks that are trying to just play a location on 3 and pass to get the payoff on turn 4, that's just not really working. And so I figured that the 4-drop plan was kind of a pipe dream. Didn't seem like it would work out that well. And Druid wants to make like bigger minions. They're getting like Cecily and stuff like that. This Death Blossom Whomper. So I'm really happy with what I ended up here. This Ironbark Basher, if you plop it on 7 and hedge maze it, you're either going to get the second copy of itself. You're going to get Cecily. You could put like Moarg Forge Fiend in your deck. You could put, I don't know, Sleepy Dragon, something. You could put Zoval the Jailer, my Big Daddy Timmy neutral legendary. Who knows? It feels like a reasonable direction that maybe this it would help the deck a lot, I think. And when Death Blossom Whomper draws it, that's really good. I'm pretty happy with this. Nice, straightforward, just kind of juicy taunt guy. Makes more taunt guys. It keeps you alive. Feels like something the deck needs. And then Due Process. I cannot. People were complimenting me on the name. I cannot take credit for the name. This is actually like leaked art, and we are pretty positive that this is the actual name that will go with this art. So props to Blizzard for coming up with this, not me. But I wanted to make the mini set as realistic as possible, so I used the leaked art that was out there. There's a couple more. Actually, this tree, the Ironbark Basher, is leaked art. This is probably not his name, but regardless. Due Process, I'm really proud of, honestly. The phase with Taunt. So I wanted the phase to have Taunt, because that's what Cecily is. And Cecily is like the queen of the phase or something, whatever. So that made sense to me. And then, I don't know, this is just one of those designs where the idea came to me, and I kind of rolled with it. Initially, the card was way stronger than this, and probably like absolutely busted. But as is, it's probably not great, but it's, I think, the kind of card that people would really enjoy messing around with. You could make some really big taunt phase and stuff, but there's like some interesting friction with the design, because a lot of the nature spells summon stuff. So it's like, are you going to run out of board space? How big can you realistically make these? Probably really big if if you're doing some innervate shenanigans. I don't know. Planted Evidence, other stuff like that. Like there's cheap nature spells that make more cheap nature spells in the set, so something that synergized with playing a bunch of nature spells made sense. This also has friction with Topior, so it all kind of came together for me. I'm really happy with this one. And in the end, this Druid set's actually one of my favorites of my mini set here. So next we have Hunter, which was kind of challenging to do, because when you look at Hunter's set, unlike just about every other class, Hunter was very, very focused on one main idea here, which was this like Wild Seed Infuse kind of package. And then there's like Collateral Damage is a wild card kind of out of nowhere. But other than that, every single one of these cards is either Infuse or Wild Seed, and that's just how it was. So what are they going to get in the mini set? I don't actually know. So I wanted another Wild Seed card, because that just, they're probably going to do that, but the package feels complete to me, so I don't know what they're going to do actually. But I wanted to go a direction where you're putting a Wild Seed minion into your hand, because that feels interesting to me with the, your ability to hold on to it until you play Wild Spirits, do things like that. And also adding a hand buffed version to your hand is kind of cool to me. Mainly because this is unique among the Wild Seed cards, in that the Rush minion is almost definitely the best one, whereas the Stag that gives you the weapon is the worst one. So that kind of creates some, some new, fresh, I don't know, something into the Wild Seed package that is not currently there. I thought about making this like a nature or arcane spell or something. Wild Spirits is the only one in the package that got a spell school. So I didn't give it anything, but this could probably have nature or something, maybe. I don't know. Enchanted Rune Stag is one of my favorites. We were all talking that it kind of presents a UI challenge, in that the discovered spell, you have to come up with some way to demonstrate like where it's at in terms of the infused progress, and you need to show that it has been infused and is now going to draw you 2 cards when you cast it. I think it's doable. You could just like put a red tint or something on the art of the spell once it's infused, and come up with some way. Blizzard has gone to great lengths to make some designs like this happen in the past, so I think it would be doable. But it's also the kind of design that might just be scrapped for practical reasons. I'm not sure, but gameplay wise, I freaking love it, so I kept it in here. Just the concept of adding Infuse to a card that you discovered is really freaking sweet to me. And it makes like the cheap spells even better, because if you're Serpent Bloom or something, that's the 0 mana, give a beast poisonous, I think. If that's drawing 2 cards, that's kind of sick. And it's just, this is just like a nice general minion that I think a decent number of hunters would play, but also it's in an interesting spot where Hunter has a ton of decent 2 mana plays. So I don't know. It's probably going in like Renathal decks, but it's cool. It's very cool. And then Sylvanas was... I wanted to make a class legendary that's really big and flashy. Those are hard to do, certainly. And Sylvanas does kind of make sense, like, thematically. She's involved in the Shadowlands or something. I'm not a Warcraft lore guy, but I know some things. Just from, like, researching for this mini set. And this art looked infusey, so that helped too. And yeah, Sylvanas is a cool, like, hunter ranger chick, so let's give you some hunter spells and have some stuff happen. The power level of this is very debatable. I've seen some people say it's freaking busted. I'm not even sure if it would see play. You have to realistically get like 3 or 4 spells from this for it to make any sense, I think. The variance of it is kind of high, but usually you're just going to get like damage. You know, that's the vast majority of what Hunter's got going on. Either damage or like, you know, you're definitely not going to be mad about getting wild spirits from this. So I think it's reasonable. I would definitely be excited to mess around with it. And you're going to have a game where you get like 9 0-cost spells and you collateral damage them 3 times or something, and it's freaking sick. So I think it's pretty sweet. I'm very happy with this as my like flashy class legendary of the mini set. So there's only 2. Shriek Wing's the other one. I copied the pattern of the other mini sets where there's 2 class legendaries and 2 neutral legendaries. So now on a Mage. Mage was very challenging to design for because just personally I don't like freeze mechanics and I don't like secrets that much. So here we are. But I think I made it work. I definitely did not think that we needed to have more ways of summoning skeletons. I definitely did not think we need more ways to freeze things. So I wanted to take Frost in a slightly different direction. You know, make Frozen Touch into a card that can help a burn strategy, you know, kind of ironically. So we have a nice guy here. Which is kind of like someone that glues together a Frozen Touch, like cheap Frost spell strategy, I think. Like you could, like maybe this gets Rhyme Tongue and stuff there. I would love to see something like that. A Frost deck that's not necessarily about freezing your stuff and just stalling until they play Dawn Grasp or something. With this card, you can actually kind of pop off and blow their shit up. So I thought that was really cool, and it's a funny pun, obviously. So that's awesome. And an even better pun, Thawed Argument. This was very hard to find art for. I still don't think this is necessarily like perfect art, but it's fine. I don't think I need to explain this one that much. It's a frost spell, so it works with a nice guy, and I love how this activates all 3 for the quest. I'm not really a quest fan, but this is like a cool way, I think, to inject some life into that. And it gets multicastered up to 3 by itself, assuming you can cast both these spells. It's pretty reasonable power level. Great pun. I'm just really happy with this one. And the Mysterious Hideaway, man, oh man. I was like, how the heck do we support this secret archetype? And but also originally I designed this to like draw a secret, it costs 0. And what I didn't like about that was that there's not really any reason for you to think about when you're activating the location. You just kind of put a thing down and you're hitting the button off of its cooldown. Whereas with this design, you kind of have a reason to actually hit it on certain turns. You know, you want to, maybe you play this on 2, you hit the button, you discover your secret, and you put it into play. But then, you know, you're waiting until you can get Orion set up or get your Chatty Bartender set up to hit it the second time. So it's still pretty, like, you know, you just probably play it and do it. But it has a little bit more going for it in terms of timing that I think is interesting. And it's obviously, like, that, it's really good. In fact, even non-secret mages might run this, but that might be fine. I don't know. Could be too good. Maybe it needs to cost 3. I don't know. I don't really care, actually. So let's move on. Paladin. So this was definitely an example of a class where they just need something to do that's strong. So I pushed it kind of hard. Some people were questioning me on the flavor. I think with a little explanation, the flavor makes sense. Party Bouncer. So the pure Paladin cards right now are like Elitist Snob and the Countess. So in my mind, like, those are rich people throwing a party, right? Well, they're going to have a Bouncer. And when your deck is pure, that means, you know, your rich Elitist Snob and Countess, they're gonna pay for superior security. You know what I mean? So there's going to be double the Bouncers. So that's why you get 2 Bouncers if your deck is pure. And obviously, 4 mana for 2 3/3 Divine Shield Taunts is pretty damn good on its own. But this card starts to really get crazy with hand buffs like Bannerman and Jewel Kit. So I think this is the kind of card that a pure Paladin, like, it would just instantly become viable, I think. This is just so much board presence that's sticky and annoying, and it gets you to the late game so you can play your Cariel and Countess and do your dumb stuff. So this is pushing an archetype, no doubt, but I think the flavor's on point and the power level feels right. Like, very high, but not absolutely outrageous. I think you could probably fight against this. I don't know. If you Jewel Kit this up to like 6/6, I don't know. That's crazy. So it might be the kind of card that needs like a stat tweak down or two, but this feels like a reasonable spot to end it off with. So, and then another card that's really pushed, this Lightborn Hammer here. Right now, Silverhand Recruits, like, why are you playing that deck? There's just not really anything that is closing out the game. Your Warhurst Trainer that just recently got buffed is, you know, it's pretty good, but this is the kind of top end that deck needs to win games, and I might have pushed it too hard. Like, the weapon might not need to be a 5 attack weapon, but I really want to smack some people, so this felt like a very cool design that, you know, you're quartermastering your board, so it's going to be really dangerous for your opponent to leave dudes up. This Pyroblasts them. We need this damage in a Renathal universe. This would definitely help Dude Paladin like a lot. Maybe too much. Maybe it needs to be 6 mana. Maybe it only needs to be like a 3/2 weapon. I don't know. But this is where I got it, and I think it would be fun to play with. And Paladin hasn't had like a good weapon in a long time. What was the last good Paladin weapon? I don't even know. So yeah. Jury Duty, I'm really happy with the flavor on this too. So it's like, you know, your minions get summoned for Jury Duty, but then, you know, the whole point of Jury Duty is to make everything fair and equal, right? You're trying to, you know, give a good trial or whatever. So that's why we set all the minions attack and health to 3. There's additional flavor to that with the Great Hall. You know, this is like an established thing that's in this set for Paladins, so it carries over into the mini set. And this is a really interesting design too, mechanically. You could probably build this with your big Paladins, so you're getting like a Stoneborn General from this or something, so you're guaranteed to be able to kill something of your opponents and then get an 8/8 rush and kill another thing. Maybe this is even playable in like a smaller go wide Paladin, because you're buffing all your stuff to 3/3. I don't know. I actually think that when I first printed this, I'm like, it's probably bad. This is just a goofy mini set card for a bad archetype. But the more I've looked at it ever since, I'm like, wow, you could actually maybe play this in a variety of things. So a slam dunk, I think, on this one. So my Paladin set, I think I really gave them some cool tools to mess with, which the class needs so badly. Priest. So when I looked at the Priest set, we had like the Thief thing, which just feels super incomplete, and this Pelagos buff thing, which feels like it's in a fine spot. So let's buff the Thief thing. The more important card is Temporary Holding, which is like a cool, like, you're Maiev-ing their minion, but also getting a copy in their hand, which is so sick. It's like, oh man, I love this design. You're like setting yourself up for a future Harvester of Envy turn, because you're going to put their thing in dormant, and when it pops out, you know, maybe you have enough mana now to play your Harvester and play the thing and steal it. So it really like kind of glues together what the deck is trying to do. And on top of that, this Accusing Apparition is a way to, you know, kind of like almost have a miracle turn where you're making this absolutely enormous taunt alongside playing your opponent's like discounted Mysterious Visitor copies of stuff. So these two cards, I think, kind of glue together exactly what this deck needs, and does it in a flavorful way, I think. Like an Accusing Apparition, he's accusing you, you play their stuff, he's getting more powerful because you're like providing evidence to his accusation or something. I don't know. And then I just kind of threw in a pretty straightforward Infuse card. Currently, Priest's only Infuse card is Clean the Scene, which is like, I mean, there are instances where infusing this doesn't even matter. But there are instances where infusing it does matter, but it's just a weird infuse card to me. I think they deserve one that's very straightforward, and it's like when you infuse this, it's always better. And it's just a nice influx of value. You can play this without infusing it. Shadow spells are sick. You can get more like identity thefts or something. I don't know. There's a decent chunk of shadow spells. So very happy with this preset. Wouldn't change a thing. Now on to Rogue. I have complained about Rogue recently, but I gave them really strong stuff. It's just how it goes. So I supported the Secret archetype. Do I want to do that? Not really, but that's just what's going to happen. You know, so I had this is just the way that I decided to do it. Evidence Collector, I originally made at 2/2, and everybody thought it was absolutely busted. So I still don't even know if I agree necessarily, but I ticked down 1 health. I still think it's really good. I personally like that you can play the Secret anytime to draw the 2 cards, so this is just a nice proactive play. It gets Secret Rogue onto the board, and when you draw your patches, it's not nearly as awful. So I think this is clean. Secret Rogue needs shit. I mean, come on. And then Cobweb Critter. I love this. You know, you can just kind of... Your opponent doesn't want to trigger your secrets in Rogue sometimes. But this makes it even more dangerous to do so. So it's... I don't know. Does it glue together the archetype completely? Maybe not. But... the Cobweb Critter is definitely, you know, like a very high power level option where it's like you get that down and your opponent, if they have to trigger a secret to do their things, that's freaking scary. You're just giving them 3/4 spiders all the time, which obviously you're getting even more from Sticky Situation. So I liked the idea of making another 3/4 spider with stealth that has to do with secrets. It just felt like kind of continuing the theme really well. And then I printed another card draw for Rogue because, man, you just gotta shut up the Rogue mains. I'm just kidding. But this is a more general use card draw card, and I've been told by some that this is their favorite design in the set, and I can see it. It's really sweet. It's just cool from a deck building perspective. It's cool from a gameplay perspective. You gotta play for board, but you can use this to fish for spells and stuff. I don't know. You just look at it. It's cool. I'm pretty sure like Jay Alexander will love this. Really happy with that one, definitely. Shaman. Okay. So I got really wonky with Fading Grasp in particular. I just want to come out with it and say that this might not be a design that would like make it into the game or something. I don't really know. It's a little bit confusing, so I'll describe what I'm going for here. So you'll discover your Battlecry minion. You return Fading Grasp to your hand with its Battlecry, and what I mean by that is that you like erase all the text that's currently on Fading Grasp, and the text that will be on it is the Battlecry of the minion that you discovered. So for instance, you discover the Stone Right, then you have a 2-mana spell in your hand that just says for the rest of the game your totems have +2 attack. So it's like a... So this supports so many things. I don't even know. You could use it to grab your like crud caretakers or something if you just want to make cheap taunts. I don't know. But supporting the Stone Right is really sick. I just feel like I was really racking my brain. Like, how do you make Totem Shaman not a complete joke that relies on drawing just one particular card? Now you have 3 cards to draw if you put this in your deck. And initially I just had reveal a Battlecry minion that costs 5 or less from your deck. That maybe that's just what it should be rather than discover. But I really wanted to push this because it's kind of sick. And the deck building possibilities with it are pretty tremendous, I think. You can also deck build with it with Party Animal, which is a really cool... it's kind of like Faceless Corruptor, but a little bit weaker, but for everything. So it's cool with like a Go Wide Shaman. It's cool with your Evolve cards. It's a nasty board control tool. It might be too good. You can fish for it with Fading Grasp, so you can have this effect on a 2-mana spell, which is kind of crazy. It's cool. I'm happy with it. It might need to be like a 3/2 or something. The implications with like Convincing Disguise are maybe terrifying, but I like it, so here we are. Hot Coffee Elemental. Originally I had like a really boring totem in this spot or something, but man, I just cannot in good conscience push that in my mini set. I want something cooler. I found this art, and so this was definitely a top-down design. A lot of this set was bottom-up design. You know, it was... If you don't know what I mean by that, bottom-up design is when you're like taking a mechanic and trying to find, you know, a thing that works with the mechanic, whereas top-down is when you have a thing and then you make a mechanic for the thing. So I had this Hot Coffee Elemental. That's my thing. The mechanic is, okay, you get a fire spell, you're heating up the coffee, and it's like more powerful or something. So I really liked that. Some people pointed out that there's never really been an instance of like a card only having overload within a specific condition. That's like a fair point, but I don't see why this couldn't be printed. It's pretty straightforward. It's a decent power level. It's pretty cool and flavorful, so I stuck with it. It doesn't have a whole lot to do with Shaman's Nathria set, but you could, I don't know, you could, there's a couple examples of mini set cards that just kind of come out of nowhere. So I don't know. I didn't want to print a totem. I don't think it needs more evolved stuff. So what the heck do I print? You know, so I made a cool Battlecry minion that does cool stuff. So there we are. On to Warlock. We're getting close to the end. It's been 33 minutes. Holy shit. Okay. So Warlock got an interesting set. They got Imps and they got Shadow. So for Imps, I wanted to make a pun. Impulsive behavior feels perfect. Originally, this was 1 mana. I'm pretty sure that would be absolutely busted with Flame Imp or the 2/5. At 2 mana, this is still probably reasonable. Matt Vey thinks that it would go in the deck. He's better at this deck than I am by a mile, so I will trust his instinct on that. But I think it's cool, and it's like an interesting way to convert your goofy imps into power in a unique way that's a little bit different than like the library and what some of these other cards do. Anima Manipulator is just, I just kind of wanted to print a interesting like cost reduction draw card thing for Warlock. I don't know what kinds of decks would run this. Your slower decks probably want this, and your faster decks might be able to run this. I don't know. I just think it's good. I like the numbers on it. It feels clean. Draw 2, infuse 4, reduce them by 2. It's a 4 mana 2/2. I don't know. It just all kind of flowed for me, and I love it. Dark Channeling. we needed some good shadow stuff. This Dark Vein package is not quite getting there. This could help, definitely. Lifesteal, 2 to a random enemy, repeat for every shadow spell in your hand. So realistically, that's probably doing like 6 and healing for 6 or something. You got to build your deck around it. There's some tension where you want to kind of hold on to your shadow spells, but also you might need to play your shadow spells to stay alive. So it's kind of got that skill testing to it. It's really cool with the Dark Vein shades. Yeah, really happy with that one. So pretty straightforward. I think I killed it with the Warlock set. Now the Warrior set. I love me some Enraged Warrior. So let's make that deck good. Crazed Flame Fist. I was a little bit worried that it's too close to Risky Skipper, but I changed up the stat line, and it's not doing a full Whirlwind, which has its pros and cons, so I think it's a reasonable place to be. And I feel like I'm about to sneeze, but we'll see if that happens. When you acknowledge that you need to sneeze, it usually doesn't happen, so that's where we're at. Anyway, Crazed Flame Fist, obviously fucking nutty. So, I mean, I'm not trying to deny that this is nutty. Anima Emblem, also nutty. When I first designed this, it was draw 3 cards, and then I kind of compared it in my head to Blood Boil Brute, and I was like, draw 3 cards. That's probably like a 3 mana effect. Blood Boil Brute, even after its nerf, was a 5/7 rush. That's not 3 mana. And Blood Boil Brute had the exact same cost reduction condition. It was just cost 1 less for each damage minion. So I buffed this to draw 4 cards. Is that too good? Maybe. I don't know. We would see. My favorite thing about this design is that it kind of gives Warrior a comeback mechanic. One of the biggest problems with the deck right now is if you fall behind and you're just kind of out of minions, it's like, what the hell are you doing? So if that happens and your opponent has some minions on board, maybe you're like able to Whirlwind and draw 4 cards and refill and get back in the game. So that's why I like that this counts enemy minions and not just your own. I could see a world where this should be like 5 mana and only do your own minions, but personally, I like where this is. And obviously, this would help the deck. Maka Dog pointed out that you could even realistically see this in Control Warrior, and I'm fine with that. I think that this is a sweet design that would anchor Warrior for a while, and I so badly wish that they would print exactly this. Sanjuin Striker is a really cool, like, it's kind of playing on what Olgra does. It's not a legendary, so it's not meant to be quite as flashy. I think it's just a nice, like, if you play this and kill a 3/3 or something, and then there's a bunch of damage friendly minions, so you just get, it comes back up to a 7/4 or something. That's pretty sweet. Just like a cool rush minion that smacks stuff around and gets big. Warrior needs, Enraged Warrior kind of deserves a reactive tool like this that can also convert into a threat. So I'm happy with it. I don't think it's insane. These other 2 cards are insane, but this might see play in the deck. So that's all the classes. Now my neutrals, neutrals are actually very hard to design. You don't want to make them like too wild, but I wanted to print some stuff that supports decks. So I made Castle Defender. I think that standard right now is lacking in a card like this. 2 mana 3/2 taunt, give adjacent minions rush, kind of a broom alternative. I like having the ability to relatively cheaply give things rush in the game. I just wish that was there. I think this would be a neat way to do it. Crypt Keeper, probably a pretty weak card, but I'm surprised that summon a location or, some sort of location tutor isn't in the game. I don't think anything would play this. Maybe Demon Hunter is that desperate. But playing a 5 mana 3/3 is super duper bad, so this probably wouldn't get there, but it feels like the kind of thing that a mini set would print to kind of flesh out this mechanic. And, down the line, I guess it kind of is limiting in your ability to design expensive locations. So that could be worth looking at, but so far every location is 3 mana tops, and that's probably right about where they're going to keep them. Probably. So this feels reasonable. I think it's fine. Unmasked Killer is like the token goofy miniset epic. I don't know how good this is. If 10 total minions have died this game, when does that realistically happen? You can definitely influence it with the deck that you're running. So it's like 2 mana deal 4 at some point later in the game, but like not a very you don't want to play just a vanilla 4/2 at any point really. I don't know. Maybe this is way better than I think, and I'm fucking up with this, but I liked it. I found some creepy art for it. It would not be this creepy in Hearthstone, but I liked it. It's like the killer goes on his killing spree, and then, you know, we figure out who the killer is, so he's unmasked, and now he's gonna fight for his life or something. I don't know. I think the flavor hits. Now my neutral legendaries, which were very hard to make. I went through a few different Sludge Fists. I really wanted to use Sludge Fist, because he was like an unused boss from the Castle Nathria raid, apparently. And that's just a cool name. I found this cool art. Look at that badass looking motherfucker. So I wanted him to be just kind of a powerful, kind of aggressive legendary. And I think this is a good card that decks might play. You're basically the unstoppable force, except on a rush minion. It's a 6 mana rush minion, so that's pretty pricey. You know, the way this would work, if you kill a 5/5 with it, you're throwing 5 damage at your opponent's face. So yeah, it feels like a good aggro card you might play. Synergizes with hand buffs really well, so I could see that being a thing. Like maybe Enrage Warrior throws this in as a way to complement its early game pushes. I don't know. I like it though. And then Zoval the Jailer, I have been told that he is like too major of a character to just throw in a mini set, and that's fine. I didn't think too hard about where the mini set's going. I was just making designs. So he's like a Lich King that adds a location to your hand that does crazy things. Fill your board with random legendaries. That's like Timmy galore. I would love to play with this. Competitively, does this get there? Maybe in like 1 or 2 decks. It kind of has a comparison to the Countess. Like, this is probably better than the Countess. But the Countess has its own set of advantages. Like, you can get battle cries. But this just feels like there needed to be a big flashy neutral legendary, and this felt like a clean design to me, so I stuck with it. And it, you know, it makes a location. This set was all about locations, and I thought that was clean. So there's my set. Do I think I absolutely crushed it with every single one of these designs? No, but I kind of put a deadline on myself for this to try and simulate what it would be like, you know, because the folks at Blizzard don't just have all day to sit around and, you know, if you have a design you're not completely convinced on, you don't necessarily get to sit on it for weeks until you might come up with something better. Sometimes you just got to submit it, you know what I mean? So I told myself I was going to have this finished by this weekend, and I did it, and here's the video, and I'm really happy with it. If you watched this far, I really appreciate it. Thanks again to everyone on this notepad, and if I forgot you and you helped me, I did not mean to forget you. Thank you. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys later.